Hello folks, I am Ed Overstreet and welcome to the Night Sky Imaging YouTube channel. We're going to have a lot going on in this video. We're going to end things by making two movies. The first movie is going to be made by the results that we did in a prior video, the most recent, using Pix Insight to process in a batch pattern to process images that I took for a time lapse, a solar time lapse. On, I think it was August the 30th, I did a time lapse of the sun. I captured close to 300 AVI files. They were between 500 and 700 frames long. They varied as the scene worsened. And I used AutoStacker to convert those into TIFF files. AutoStacker did a yeoman's job of applying a flat frame to remove the dust, and then it stacked the top frames, and I think I selected 20%, the top 20% of the frames inside the AVI file to stack into a TIFF file, and I ended up with close to 300 TIFF files. Now, from there, the next step was to sharpen the images and make sure that's your next, or let's say maybe that's your first step in processing once you have your all of your AVI files converted to a TIFF file or an image file. Sharpening is important because you can't align a lot of these images if they don't have good reference points. And when you sharpen the image, you allow some definition and some clarity to make its presence known. And so the align algorithms have a better opportunity or a shot at really at aligning them accurately if they have something to work with. If you have kind of smooth, unsharpened images, then a line may fail or struggle to get it right, and it may not get it exactly right. So sharpen first, and that's the reason you do. I do the sharpening using deconvolution in IMPPG. That's the software, IMPPG. It's a freeware software program. Can't get any cheaper than that. So I sharpen and I align the images using IMPPG. There are videos that I just recently did on how to do both AutoStacker, set it up, apply the flats, and use your IMPPG to do the deconvolution, sharpening, and align the images. Once we align the images, then the two most recent videos that I did had to do with taking Lightroom first and using Lightroom to colorize, sharpen, crop, and we did a few other gradient tweaks. And then we applied that in a batch way to the entire, to all of the images. We used a sync procedure that is built in Lightroom. Now this is important. Unlike PixInsight, Lightroom allows you to take your tweaks, and when you select an image, all the changes that you made, the exposure values, and that's very important. Everything that is inherent to your reference image, everything, is going to be applied to all of your images. So if there were levels of luminosity variation throughout your imaging session, that's going to be fixed for the most part by syncing the first reference frame that you tweak and build to all the rest of your images. And you should be good to go. But in case you still see some flicker in your image, you can go to the develop mode, and under settings is a option to match total exposures. You take your reference frame, select the rest, and you match total exposures just to that one frame. So you may still have to do that, but probably not if you just follow that video that I did on Lightroom on how to add the color, sharpening, so forth, and sync with the rest of your images. Now, PixInsight doesn't work that way. In PixInsight, when we load our first picture, which becomes our reference picture, and we make the tweaks to it, the tweaks we're going to make are the only things that are going to be applied to all the rest of the images. So if we crop, colorize, convert to RGB, then colorize, run another curves, do some unsharp mask or some MMT, whatever we do to the image, those steps are going to be saved in the history. And we're going to copy the history and put that into what's called the process container. It will show all the things that we did. All the processes will be then saved to one single process on the desktop. Then we go take all of our images and we load them into the image container. And we find an output directory to save them. And we drag the image container onto the process icon, and it batch processes only those changes that we made. So exposure still could vary from image to the next. When I started imaging, it was around 9:30 or 10 o'clock in the morning, and I stopped around 1. A lot changes in light between 9:30 and 1. And so the variations of exposure from one image to the next, and when I say illumination, I'm really talking about the exposure value from this picture to this picture to this picture. It might be very gradual as you blink through them. But when you put them in a time lapse and look at all 300 of them in 4 seconds or 5 seconds or 6 seconds, 300 of them in 6-second video, the flicker is going to be obvious if the exposures aren't equal throughout all of the different frames. So we have to do something to fix that, and I struggled with that in PixInsight, so much so that I would use Lightroom to do all of my time-lapse processing. And I just accidentally stumbled on a batch processing script under scripts that's called linear fit. Well, I used linear fit not on a batch basis. I didn't know it existed, but I was using linear fit to do my mono imaging, where I would match my red channel, my green channel, and my blue. I'd use linear fit to equalize the channels, or my narrowband. So linear fit's something I've been using since I've been using PixInsight, but I did not know you could do it on a batch basis. That's what we're going to look at next. So let's take a look at linear fit. Then we're going to make 2 movies. One movie with the results from Lightroom, and the other movie, the results from PixInsight. I can't promise you there'll be one better than the other. I think there will be. There usually is. But what might be better today with PixInsight might be better tomorrow with Lightroom, and vice versa. It's just when you settle on your tweaks, when you settle on how much exposure or how much sharpening or how much of the red curve you're going to use, or the green or the blue, you can't get it exact, but one's going to be different than the other, and one will probably be your favorite. So with that being said, let's head over to Lightroom and then head over to PixInsight, and let's take a look at linear fit on a batch basis. Okay, I said we're going to head over to PixInsight. Here we go. And got sidetracked. Alrighty, under script, if you'll go down to batch processing, you're going to find this batch linear fit. And is this a blessing or what? So what you'll do is you'll go add images. and if it doesn't freeze on me, do. Oh no. Well, there we go. All right. We don't, where are we going to go? Let's go to, well, we got to go to planetary. And we're going to go solar. Now, we have two folders. We have the Lightroom folder where we did, where we took our aligned images and we colorized, cropped, and sharpened them. And we have a folder where I took the aligned images and I loaded those in Pix Insight, and I did the colorized, crop, and a few other tweaks. And if you happen to have a mono image and you haven't converted in AutoStacker to force a bayometrics pattern, then you're going to have to convert to RGB in Pix Insight. And in my video it shows you how to do that in case you need to. And again, I'm going to restate what makes Lightroom, it gives it an advantage if you're doing time lapses, is that Lightroom copies when you sync the reference image with all of your image, it syncs everything about that image, including the changes you made to it. So exposure values, color, the crop, any sharpening will be applied to all of the images when you sync it. In Pix Insight, that doesn't happen. The only thing that's going to be synced or used in the process container are going to be those things you did, the history. So you may have levels of lightness that vary from image to image over the period of the time lapse. So how do you fix that? Well, we're going to go to the Pix Insight images, and we're going to load those, and these should all be colorized and ready to go into the batch linear fit. We're going to pick a reference image, and I'm going to go about halfway down, and I have a feeling that the lightness levels will change. I'm going to take one in the middle, and I'm going to make that my reference image, and that's it looks like that's 577. So let's go down here and grab, well, it's not going to, let's go down and just pick halfway here. 579. Let's just pick this one. All right, so we have a reference image. I'm not going to change anything that you see here. I am going to change the output to point or period JPG. I'm going to make it a JPEG, and I'm going to create a new output directory. And we got to go back to planetary, and we're going to call this one for Pix linear fit. And now we're going to run it, and this is going to apply the exposure from my reference image, those values, those pixel values. It's going to apply each of those pixel values to all the rest of the images, those before it and those after it. I will bring this back to you when it's done. Okay, it finished, and we don't want another batch, so we're done. And we actually do not need Pix Insight anymore, so I'm going to move us back out of there, and let's open up planetary, and let's go to solar. And so now we have, these are our finished Pix pictures, and where linear fit has been applied, and Lightroom is our finished pictures where all of the tweaks in Lightroom were applied. So now it is important to understand that you do your, if you're using Pix Insight, that you do your colorizing, your cropping, your tweaks, any curves adjustments, anything else you might do, sharpening, MMT, anything else you might do to the image, that you do that. And after doing that and saving those files using your image container with the batch processes loaded with your process container used for the processes, once you've done that and those have been saved, and then you load those images, and you create a new folder where you now apply linear fit to all of your images. Okay, so now we have images to make a movie, and let's go do that. Okay, I had to actually pull that hard drive out and put it into a Windows hard drive, because everything I did in Pix Insight, everything I did in Lightroom, I was using an iMac. Unfortunately, IMPPG and AutoStackert and PIPP software, which are my go-to software programs for this, they only work on Windows. So let's bring up PIPP. I clicked it twice, so I'm going to get 2 copies accidentally. And let's process the Lightroom images first. So we're now ready to make a movie. So to make a movie, I'm going to add image files, and we're going to, oh, we don't want to go to a OneDrive. We want to go to planetary. Where is planetary? Did it not? Oh crap, I plugged in the wrong thing. So hold on. I hope I got the right thing. There he goes. I gotta get situated here. Alright, we're going to go down to, we're going to do Lightroom first. So we're going to take these images, and since we did a crop both using Lightroom and we did a crop using Pix Insight, it probably would have been wise to open up IMPPG and I'll run the align program again. But I'm on a gamble, and I'm going to go ahead and see if we can't get a decent GIF file out of this. Alright, didn't work. Let's add our image files. Got to add more than one. Let me back out of here. Let me delete this one. Alright, add image files and select them all. For some reason, I don't think I did that. Okay, they're there now. You don't need this. You can delete it. The very first tab I go to, of all the tabs in here, the very first tab I go to is animation. And the only thing that I change is reverse play. And I select play all frames in reverse order after it's played in a forward play. So it just loops over and over again. That's all I change. Under output, because if this turns out to be a decent file, I would like for it to go to AstroBin, where I post pictures. And AstroBin limits video files to being GIF only. But if you wanted an AVI file and wanted to put it on Facebook or wherever you want to put an AVI file, you can. So I'm going to use the GIF animated time lapse, and I'm going to change this to 30 frames per second, not 3. It would go so slow. I'm going to change the quality to maximum quality, and that's all. That's it. End of story. Nothing else is going to be changed. You could change the directory that you're going to output this in, but I'm just going to keep it in the directory where the Lightroom files are stored. It's fine with me. So what we do now is to go to do processing, and all you check is this, and you wait for it to complete its work. Okie dokie, we're almost done, and there we go, and it will automatically open up our movie, and we can give it a go. See what we got. I should have ran the alignment again. Also, I can tell from this that my blinking that I did early on, you know, I don't think I even blinked these images. I think I used all 300 of them. That's part of the problem. There are several in here that shouldn't be in here. But at any rate, this is the results of Lightroom going into a movie. I see I think some luminosity flicker in here, but a lot of that's just the movement on the sun's surface at 30 frames per second. So we're taking 3 hours and squeezing it in over about an 8 or 9 second video, and it's playing backwards and forwards. But it needs to be realigned. Okay, so that's video number 1, and I rank it on a 1 to 10, a 3. All right, now let's see. We got to go back to Planetary. I just don't need that movie, and we can close that down. And it's time to go back to our source files and remove all image files. And so let's add. This time we're going to add the files from Linear Fit, and these are the ones that we did using Pix Insight. So we've got Lightroom in the can, and that's somewhere around a 3 rating in my opinion. We have everything checked, and we're going to maximum quality 30. Let's go ahead and do processing, and so we're off and running, and I'll be back with you when it finishes. Okay, we're getting down the wire, and this one's about to finish up, so we'll take a look at the final result. And this one is coming out of the Linear Fit folder, which PixInsight did. So let's open and let it play. Don't know. This one isn't as sharp, and clearly the biggest mistake that I now know that I made, and it's easy to make this, is in a hurry to run a deconvolution and sharpen it to, to get to the output of a video to see what you got. I did not take all 300 images into PixInsight and blink through them, or into nebulosity, which are nebulosity is a good one to preview your images with as well. I just did not do it. So, and if you were with me when I did the actual photo shoot when I was imaging the sun, And that video, I think I imaged for 3 hours, live streamed for 3 hours or close to that, from 10 to 1 in that neighborhood. You saw the scene degrade as the morning wore on, and so those images are mixed in here, and they should have been deleted. It's better to have much fewer images that are sharp than to have a lot of them with mucky ones in between. It's a hard lesson to learn. You fight to center them, and then you end up deleting them. Same thing with deep space. You're blinking through your images, and you got 5 minutes invested in each image, and you hate to delete it. But if the image is not good, you can't, like they say, make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. And well, there you have it. We've got 2 videos. We have this one that it's kind of softer. It's got less flicker, and then we have this one that's sharper, but it's got the soft pictures in it. It's a little sharper, but I don't think it's as good. And there is some, I needed to match total exposures and take this back into Lightroom. So to prepare this image for something that's worth showing on Astrobin, and this isn't, in my opinion, I would go back and I would blink through and preview all the images and delete the ones that don't need to be here. And they're usually just eyeball rejects. They're just not sharp. And then I would probably use Lightroom because I like these results. And what I would do in Lightroom, after having applied all of my tweaks, then I would run a match total exposure so that I do the equivalent of linear fit, but only after I converted them into JPEGs. So at any rate, folks, that's it. Now keep in mind, there are about 3 or 4 back-to-back videos I've just done, all tied to this set of data, and so it gets kind of confusing if you just jump in here and watch one of these, but I would think it would be confusing. So at any rate, there's our finished product using Lightroom, and this is our finished product using Pix Insight. And it's not the programs, it was the tweaks I made while I was in the program. I could have easily sharpened this more, I just didn't. I could have easily sharpened the Lightroom one less, I just didn't. Okay, well, hope everybody has a great rest of the day. What's left of it in your neck of the woods. It's getting late in the afternoon in Spartanburg, South Carolina. It's starting to rain. We've got 2 weeks of clouds. So my videos are all going to be post-processing related, because there's not a Chinaman's chance I'm going to be able to do any imaging other than sports imaging. So make sure you say something nice to somebody close to you and tell them how much you love them. And you'll make their day, and you're going to feel better for it.